I think that's his lot. You know, I don't think that he's going to want to operate at a lower level than that. He's had a wonderful career. He's had huge nights here. You know, he's had huge paydays, 7-figure paydays. He's filled out arenas. You know, he's made enough money to leave the sport safely and say that probably I've done everything that I could have done in the sport. And when you leave your job, sport, whatever it is, knowing you've done that, you can live a nice life. And I'm sure he's got a lot to give back to boxing. But tonight, as Jono said in the build-up, it is his time. You know, time of a 27-year-old that has got it in his legs, that has still got the timing, that has got the freshness. And, you know, he's going to go on, and I think I'd like to see him fight for a world title this year.
We're quite through the card. Obviously, Zach Parker defeated Ryan Murdoch. What did you make of Zach's victory?
I thought it was a good fight and a good performance. Zach Parker, I think, is going to be in very interesting fights at 168 pounds. I think he's big, he's strong. Sometimes, I think tonight, at times he didn't show the confidence to go on and do what he did in the 11th. I think he could have done in the 8th or 9th round. And I was saying to his guys, you know, put the pressure on them. Because if he would have won on points, it would have been a good performance. But to get the stoppage and a good knockout, it goes, you know, people remember that, fans remember that, broadcasters remember that. And, you know, he's in a position now where he's going to be #1 with the WBO. If Canelo fights Billy Joe Saunders, he's going to be mandatory to the winner. So it's a big night for Zach Parker. He's got a long way to improve to mix at those levels. But I thought it was a really good performance and a good fight.
Huey Fury, Pavel, so obviously how Huey Fury picking up a stoppage victory, impressed by him?
Actually was. I think Huey Fury gets too much stick, to be honest with you. I mean, he's up against it. His cousin's Tyson Fury. You know, he's 26 years of age now. At 25 and 24, he was fighting for the world heavyweight title against Joseph Parker. He went to Bulgaria to fight Quigg. He boxed Alexander Povetkin. And tonight I thought he looked nice and spiteful. He did all the things that he said he was going to do. Pavel Sauer is not Povetkin and Parker and those guys, but he is a decent heavyweight that doesn't really get stopped. Huey Fury is supposed to be a guy that doesn't punch very hard. I thought tonight he was punching very hard, very sharply, and actually I think he's right up there in terms of emerging heavyweights. Even though he's lost at the highest level, I kind of feel like he's a guy that could be 18, 19 and 0, being unbeaten. But because he's jumped in those fights, and fair play to him, you've got, as a fan, you can't have it both ways. You know, some may say, oh, he's a bit bored, he moves a lot. Tonight he didn't do it. But then, if you want to do that, you've got to give him respect when he jumps in those other kind of fights at that stage in his career. So to get a heavyweight who's 26, that has his movement, that could have his power, he's going to grow, he's going to develop that power. I think he's a bit of a dark horse, to be honest with you. We'll look to box him on the Usyk Chisora card, or the AJ card, and I think he needs a good step up now, top 15 heavyweight in the world. And I believe he'll get another shot at the world heavyweight title with time.
Anthony Fowler didn't get a chance to showcase his talents fully tonight with what he's worked on with Shane McGuigan, but what can we take away from Anthony?
Nothing really. I mean, it was a kick cut, it's horrible when it happens, you know. You get a phone call on, was it Tuesday or something like that, Jack Flatley's fractured his ankle, wanted to go through with a fight, just couldn't carry on. You're phoning around the world trying to find someone, you find one guy, then all of a sudden he fails a medical, then you find another guy, he ain't got a visa, he lies to you about his passport, then you get another guy in Tete, who we've had over before, who he's boxed John Ryder before, went, I don't know, 6 or 7 rounds with John Ryder, decent enough, come over, had no grip on his shoes, and was shot to pieces. It's the truth. Like, it was hard to watch. It's almost embarrassing. And if those things hadn't have happened, I would have been seriously fucked off, to be honest with you. But there's not a lot you can do about it. You just have to take it on the chin and say, bit of a waste of time. But Fowler got out, he got paid, he got all the things that he worked on with Shane McGuigan. Didn't see it in full, but probably needs just another little run out under Shane before he fights Fitz in July.
A couple more quick ones from me, Eddie. What is the latest with Billy Joe and Canelo?
Not a lot. They've sent us a contract. We've sent our comments back, and we're waiting to hear from them. So right now, no deal, no done deal, but we're ready to go. I believe the deal will get completed, but it's not done yet.
Finally, Frank Warren responded to some of your comments previously about speaking to Bob Arum, trying to arrange a Joshua Fury fight. Frank said that what you said is untrue and it's lies. Bob Arum's assured him there's been no conversations between the two of you. Thoughts and replies to that?
Thoughts is my nose has just gone and wrapped around the Manchester Arena 7 times. What do you think? Do you think that, I mean, I've had about half a dozen conversations with Bob Arum since the Fury Wilder fight. We've talked about the deal, we've talked about the TV companies, we've talked about the split, we've talked about the date, we've talked about the site, and these are all wrapped in with the Kubrak-Kulik. Well, what does Frank think that I'm going to speak to Bob Arum all these times and not talk about Fury Joshua? It's the biggest fight in the world. So it's not my fault that Bob hasn't told Frank that they haven't been discussing. On our side, it's very straightforward, just talk to me. and we'll get it done. I don't know, he says he's in charge, he says he's in charge, he says he's in charge. But of course I've spoke to Bob Arum 6 or 7 times. We've discussed virtually everything. We've talked about step-aside money, we've talked about the Pulev fight, we've talked about when the fight would happen, we've talked about how it would work on ESPN and TYSON, we've talked about BT, we've talked about Sky. It's not illegal. You know what I mean? So Keith does it. By the way, we're more than happy to sit around a table with Frank Warren and Bob Arum and MTK and everybody. I'm just telling you, Bob Arum's calling me non-stop. I'm calling him about stuff, and we're talking about Crawford, Brook, Joshua, Pulev, Fury. This is what we do when you communicate. Unfortunately, I've never had a conversation with Frank Warren, but I'm more than happy to. He can call me up if he wants. We'll sit around the table, and we may end up sitting around the table all together. But it doesn't have to stop me having a conversation with Bob Arum about the biggest fight in world boxing when he's Tyson Fury's promoter. So I don't know why he wants to call me a liar for saying I've spoke to Bob Arum, but I've not only spoke to Bob Arum, I've spoke to Bob Arum about basically every issue around the deal. There's been no numbers, there's been nothing discussed. We're talking about how the deal works, when it can happen, and where it can happen. And all those conversations have been extremely positive.
Cheers, Eddie.
Thank you.
What's those conversations been like in terms of like where it would take place and whatnot?
Nothing. All the conversations have been, what do you think about the rematch? Do you think we could look at step aside? Yes. And then obviously he exercised his rematch clause. Then we talked about where it would be, when they would like to do it. We talked about the TV, how it would work with ESPN and DAZN. We talked about BT and Sky, all these, but minor stuff. You know, we're not negotiating the deal. We're just talking. You know, we're talking about the big. In fact, if Team Fury and Team Joshua had not had a conversation since that fight, fans should be very, very concerned. You know, it was 2 weeks ago. It's the biggest fight in boxing. Everyone wants to get it made, so of course there's going to be conversations. Conversations, not negotiations.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
There's a topic that's been raised, obviously, with that fight, Fury Wilder fight, and so much has been said already about Fury's glove conspiracy and all that behind it. Do you believe any of that, or
not really. I mean, look, I've seen the slow mo and everything. It don't quite look right, but you know, people have got to understand. It's a bit like when people said to me, Anthony Joshua had a panic attack. You've got to understand, when you box in America, you have an inspector from the commission that does not leave your side. You know, those gloves will be inspected prior. When he's got the wraps, when the wraps are in the glove. You know, it's very difficult to slip a glove down, and I don't see what benefit you can get from not having your fist inserted in a glove properly, unless you want to cup someone around the side, which won't really happen. So it looks like bollocks to me, but over to you.
Callum Smith was obviously here tonight. He spoke to Sky and he said that Canelo team only made one offer and then they didn't reply. With looking like Billy Joe is going to face Canelo, where does Callum go from here?
I think it's frustrating for him. You know, the person that wasn't going to get the fight is always going to be frustrated. I don't think there's still a chance he could get, like, it's small, but you never know. You know, we've gone back to Golden Boy contract. We're ready to go. We'll talk about press conferences next week. If all of a sudden something fell through, he would get the fight. But right now it looks like Callum's not going to get the fight. We have to look at the likes of Danny Jacobs. We have to look at the likes of Caleb Plant. You know, Benavidez is tied up. Chris Eubank Jr., maybe a John Ryder rematch. And you know, he has to do what he does, keep winning, but of course he does want the biggest fights possible.
Finally, one more from me. Kell Brook and Crawford, you mentioned there. They obviously met in Vegas, had a little chat. What's the situation there? You mentioned it.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Bob Arum about that fight, and we talked about the Saudi fight with Pacquiao, Mikey Garcia, or how does Crawford fit into that mix? Then we talked about Crawford fighting Kell Brook, which is a fight we like, and you know, that's something that we're open to as well.
Does Amir Khan fit that mix at all?
Not really, no. I mean, I think Amir's just had a child. He's got Ramadan coming up, I think end of April, so he'll be out till July, August time. So I don't think Amir's going to box probably till September onwards. So we've not had any conversations about the Kell Brook fight, and you know, we've got other plans for Kell Brook that involve a possible Terence Crawford fight or a domestic fight with Liam Smith.
Is Amir going his own way then? I know he's done bits of work with him.
Yeah, I mean, we had a good chat tonight, and I just said, look, let's catch up. But you know, I've got the biggest fight, or one of the biggest fights in British boxing, ready to go for it. But I can't do any more than try and get him in that fight.
Jack Collum tonight?
Really good, yeah, really good. The fight with Jason Quigley, will probably land here on May the 2nd, will be a cracker. He will never be in a bad fight, and great fans, good to bring him back after the Phoenix Cash fight, because some people just sort of say, sorry mate, he lost. But I like Jack Cullen. I think he's an exciting fight, and I think he's got a great fan base, and we'll see him again on May the 2nd.
And just one more on Scott Quigg. If this is the end, which you're suggesting it maybe should be, how do you reflect on the career of...
I reflect on a great career. When you leave a sport, you leave a job where you're sitting on your sofa when you're older, as long as you know you're giving it 120%, you can't be disappointed. He's giving it 150%. He has put so much into his career, worked so hard, like almost in a sick way. We've always taken mickey out of him. Joe will say to him, I don't want to see you, go away for 2 days, and he'll be back in the gym the next day, So he's got every ounce out of his career, and he can leave with a lot of money, world championships, experiences of filling this place, trying to unify here, boxing Carl Frampton, great nights against Kiko Martinez, Oscar Valdez challenged for the world title in America. Another win in America in Boston on our card last year. I think he's had a great career.
In terms of John O'Carroll, how far do you think he can go in this sport? And obviously he has the gift of the gab as well as the skills in the ring as well. Must be a bit of a promoter's dream for yourself.
Yeah, I think he had a great fight with Tevin Farmer that was actually quite close. I had Tevin winning that fight by a round or two. John O boxed really well tonight. A lot of the conversations will be Quigg's timing weren't quite there, etc., etc. But actually, John O's feet were excellent. His movement was excellent. His shot selection was excellent, and he's a real character. That's what you want. You want someone that's going to get in people's faces and rough them up the wrong way and give you great interviews and sound bites and pictures, and I think what he says is quite true. He's only really 3 of his fights were in prize fighter. They were over 4 rounds. So really, he had a 10-round fight in Mexico. He went 12 with Tevin. He went 12 with Fenwa. And I think maybe one other 10 round or something like that. He's not been in loads of championship fights, and I thought tonight was a really good performance. How good it was, we may never know, because Scott Quigg might have done a lot better in the fight back in his glory days. But you still can't take anything away from John O's performance, which I thought was excellent.
You mentioned that Huey Fury does get some unfair stick, but it was an aggressive performance in terms of what he's displayed in the past. Do you see him replicating that style in the future? Or?
I think you have to, because I think ultimately he's only going to get the plaudits, he's only going to get the respect if he entertains and if he fights like that. Tyson Fury has, for a long time in his career, boxed in an awkward style and been a bit awkward, and when he's stepped up to higher levels, he's boxed better. And I think that'll be the same with Fury as well. Like Pavel Sauer's not a world beater, but he's tough. He's been in with a lot of top heavyweights and gone the distance. And you wouldn't often say he couldn't handle the power of Huey Fury, but that's actually true. Huey's not supposed to be a puncher, but he's only 26 years old. He's learning, he's going to develop more power, and I think when he's more aggressive, I felt in the Povetkin fight, if he would have been more aggressive in that fight, it would have been a much closer fight.
Yeah.
But I know whether it's confidence, whether it's the injuries he talked about, but when you think that this is a 26-year-old British heavyweight, there's not many heavyweights in Britain at his age that you could say, have got the potential to go on and win a world title. So I think we should be crediting him more, especially for the risks he's taken in the past. Pulev in Bulgaria, Povetkin recently, Joseph Parker here. He's taken a lot of chances in his career, and I think fans should respect that. You can't have it both ways. One, he's a bit boring, and two, bloody hell, he fights everybody, don't care. You should be credited for that, and when there's a performance that you don't think is boring, you should give him the appreciation and the credit, and I think tonight was one of those.
Do you think that a Joseph Parker rematch for him could be potentially next or down the line?
I like a fight in the summer, like Kuzmin or Romanov, or these kind of guys. I want like a top 15 just on the fringes, and then after another one of them, I think he's ready to go and fight for another world title. He's a Brit, obviously he's a Fury. He's got a good story, he's got a great trainer, and I'm excited about it.
Just finally, you announced that Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano is taking place on the stacked Dillian White card. Just summarise how massive that is, not just for combat sports as a whole, but the city of Manchester as well.
Yeah, it's the biggest ever female fight. We're getting to a stage now where you see governing bodies taking the word female off their world championship belt, which is exactly how it should be. We need to stop talking about men's and women's boxing, because that's just boxing. And I've never been in an unentertaining fight at that kind of level. You've got Terry Harper at the moment, it's fantastic. She's fighting Natasha Jonas as the first ever all-British world championship fight. You've got Katie Taylor fighting Serrano. It's so refreshing in the women's game they fight everybody. You know, all the belt holders are willing to fight everybody. People are willing to challenge people for world titles. People don't want easy defences. And it's really refreshing. And the top level, you've got Chantel Cameron as well. You know, we're going to announce her in a world title fight coming up. And then you've got Savannah Marshall fighting for a world title on April the 4th. You know, it's exciting times. And I think it's now major. I mean, actually tonight was probably the first time in a long time that we haven't had a female fight on the card over here. And that, you know, when you've got the Terry Harper fight coming up, we've got 3 female fights on that card. And you'll see 2 female fights, I think, on the May 2nd fight here. But you know, we know that Dylan White's a big draw. We've done over 8,000 tickets in the first 36 hours of sale here. This place will be completely full up on May 2nd. And Katie Taylor's a big draw, and it's a wonderful fight.
Could we see 3-minute rounds in that fight? Or?
You won't, because the WBC's rules are 2-minute rounds,
okay.
So they have to change their rules.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I feel that 2-minute rounds are actually quite entertaining.
Yeah.
You know, I think the argument is you'll see more stoppages extending the rounds. I don't think you'd see a complaint from the fighters. I don't mind the format personally. I think it's short and sharp. But as we start to become more educated about women's boxing, I think people may want to see longer rounds. I think at first there was still an element of it being a bit gimmicky when I brought it in, and you know, the fact that it was 2-minute rounds was like, oh, it's short, sharp content, short, sharp formats. Now, when you're seeing the quality that you're seeing, there is going to be demand for longer rounds, but we need the governing bodies to decide collectively that they're happy with 3-minute rounds.
Yeah.
Serrano Taylor will be 2-minute rounds. It's sanctioned. It's already done so. But you know, I don't think the fighters would have a problem with it.
Eddie, can I keep tradition and go last?
Yeah.
Just your sales pitch on the next few events. Obviously with the North East flavour, Newcastle card.
Yeah.
You've got Josh Kelly.
Well, the first one, the next one is Josh Kelly and David Avanesian, which it's a tough one for us because we've really taken a gamble to go to the O2 to give him the ultimate spotlight, because I feel like if you're going to take a gamble like that, if it comes off and you do it there with all the profile, you're going to be a big star. You know, so we're in a huge arena. We're selling decent amount of tickets. We're certainly not going to be filling it up, but I don't care because I want Josh Kelly to get that platform to see if he can be a superstar, and I think he'll thrive in that kind of superstar, in that kind of fight. It is an absolutely brilliant fight. David Avanesian is an animal. He will not stop from the first round to however long he's in there. Josh Kelly's going to be put under immense pressure throughout the whole fight, but I think that's the kind of environment that you'll see him shine. Boatsi, Ben, Ellie Scottney making their professional debut on the card. Great fight with Luther Clay against Chris Congo on that card as well. Big fight being announced for Felix Cash on Monday. Then we go up to Newcastle, where I keep getting told off for how many fights I've got on the card. Well, basically, whenever I go to Newcastle, they collar me at the press conference, all these local managers, and go, oh, can I have my kid on? He'll sell 400. And I go, yeah. And then they all phone the office, ordering tickets, and go, who are these people? Oh, Eddie said he could go on. Yeah. So we've got about 13 fights at the moment. We've got, obviously, Lewis Ritson against Vasquez. We've got Joe Laws. We've got Savannah Marshall fighting for the world title. You've got Thomas Patrick Ward. You've got Cash Farouk going to be making his Matchroom debut. You've got a great heavyweight fight between Simon Vallili and Fabio Wardley. You've got Chad Ellis, just had a good win.
He did, yeah.
Blimey, I mean, it goes on and on. Terry Wilkinson, April Hunter, like, I don't know, just so many fights.
And any more big name additions, Eddie? Because there was talk of Callum Johnson, but
yeah,
obviously
well, he's
been
going on
announced.
here. Probably not. We've done, over 7,000 already up there, so we've still got a month left. It's going to be full up. Then we've got April 24th, April 17th first in Washington, which is going to be Maurice Hooker against Regis Prograis, Cecilia Brackhouse against McCaskill. Hopefully the Campbell Fortuna fight falling on that card as well. Then we've got April 24th, Terry Harper against Natasha Jonas, Kieran Conway against Nav Mansouri. Also on that card is Shannon Courtney. Also on that card is Dante Dixon. Also on the card is Dalton Smith. Also on the card is the other kid Anthony Tomlinson. That's the 24th. Then May the 2nd is going to be, I think May the 2nd will be one of the best cards we've ever done. You're going to have White Povetkin, Taylor Serrano, Callum Johnson against McAlkin. We're going to make Jack Cullen against Jason Quigley, and Fitz is on the card as well. Another exciting addition which we'll be announcing this week as well. That's for May the 2nd.
Scott Fitzgerald.
Yes, he'll be on the card, Fitz, yeah. And then May the 23rd, we'll announce on Friday, which will be Usyk against Chisora. I don't know why I bother telling you. I'm supposed to be announcing this next week.
Is that at Manchester?
What?
Is this up here in Manchester?
No, that's at the O2.
The O2.
So There'll be another big world title. Actually, there'll be 2 world title fights on that card for Brits going challenging for world titles.
Okolie?
And then, yeah, there's another one I'm supposed to announce this week. And then June 20th, and then also Warrington as well, which could land May the 30th.
Was there any significance in being ringside tonight, Eddie?
Not really, just that he
Because
fancied
Quigg
coming
was
along.
there as well.
Yeah, well, Quigg Galahad's, obviously wants to fight Josh Warrington. Josh Warrington wants to unify, so we'll see what happens. June the 20th will be Joshua against Pulev. Some interesting fights being lined up for that card as well. That'll be announced in 2 weeks' time. Saudi could be July the 11th. That'll be Pacquiao against Garcia or something like that. Then we've got July the 18th, which is the penciled date for Scott Fitzgerald against Anthony Fowler, the rematch. And then I'm going to fuck off for 4 weeks and then make sure that I ain't got to talk to any of you lot for the whole of summer. And then we're going to start all over again.
Finally, one more thing. Are you Dana White in disguise? Because I see you coughing a lot of this kind.
Yes. Well, that thing what he does. Well, I did a shit one basically. He's got this really nice thing where it's all like stickers, and he's like, hey. But he did it the other day. He had like a pair of tatty jeans on. I don't know what his game was, but I thought I looked smarter. Anyway, but I did it wrong. I did it on a whiteboard with writing. You couldn't even see it. So his ones are much better than mine. People do say I look like Dana White, but with hair that might not last too much longer. And also our where to watch tonight. I posted it. It's like, you've just copied it from the UFC. It's like, that bit's not really groundbreaking about where it was. Yes, the setup was very similar. As I tell everyone in all our interviews, I will continuously copy what the UFC do. Everything they do is absolutely first class. Yep. Dana White is a great mind, he's a great promoter, and if I get called the Dana White of boxing, I'm very happy with that. So I have huge respect for the UFC as a brand. In fact, we are the only true international boxing promotional company in the world. There is no other promotional company that are consistently staging events in other countries without teaming up with other promoters. So there's no British promoter that's staging events in America. There's no American promoter that's staging events in the UK. They're all, Bob will do it with Frank, or Frank will do it with Bob. We are operating now in the UK, in America, in Italy, in Spain, in Saudi Arabia, in Monaco. We'll be in Canada, Germany, Japan, and Australia this year, and we are going for it. We are trying to be the UFC of boxing. We probably won't get as big, but we'll give it a fucking good go.
Yeah, that is right.